What's going on, Screen Thumb? It's potato season, and today we're going to be talking about chitting potatoes. All right, folks, let's talk potatoes. Basically, you've got two kinds of potatoes. You've got your seed potatoes that are about this big. That's the size you want to put in the ground. That's about the size of an egg. Okay? These are my Yukon Golds. And these ones are my Russets. Pretty big difference in size. So, we're going to talk about chitting potatoes. So what you want to do when you get your seed potatoes, okay, buy your bag of seed potatoes from your farm store, your organic seed distributor, lots of places. So you get your seed potatoes. See? These have been sitting in my kitchen underneath my sink for about 2 weeks now in the dark. And what they've done is they've started to sprout. Okay? And they're sprouting white because they haven't had any sunlight yet. So what we're going to do is, now that these have started to sprout, we're going to move these to a cool location that has some sunlight, and these little white sprouts are going to turn green. So something like this, I'm not going to cut up. Something like this, you only need 2 to 3 sprouts per chunk to grow your potato plants. Because if you grow this, each one of these is going to grow its own set of foliage out the top. And what will happen is you'll have way too many potatoes trying to grow in one small section, right? And then you'll end up with potatoes that are way too small because they've grown, all clumped up in a ball. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each one of these larger potatoes, and I'm going to figure out where I can cut this to get 2 to 3 eyes per section, right? But you don't want it too small. You don't want a little itty bitty piece, right? Because what'll end up happening is it'll rot before it has a chance to grow, because the potato, these little roots are going to use energy out of this potato to grow until they crack the surface of the soil and they can start with the photosynthesis process. Okay, so this one isn't really a good example. Let's see if we can get a good one here. There, that's a better one. Okay, so we've got here and here, right? So right here and here. So what we're going to do, grab your knife and just cut them. So now I can plant each one of these separately, and each one of these are going to grow me potato plants. So I'm going to go through my bag of Russets, and I'm going to do this same process with all of them. So you find the next one like that. So we've got a little eye here. We've got a couple starting here, and we've got those two. So we're just going to slice them. We're going to work our way through this bag here. This one's awkward. So this one, what we're going to do, we're going to go across the middle. There, like that. Okay? Now what you want is, now that we're cutting these up, because we've had them in the dark and the dark has helped them to sprout, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to put these on egg cartons or cardboard boxes. And what we want to have happen is we want this part here that we've cut to toughen up. And it's going to start to feel like leather. Takes, give or take, a week. And while that's happening, because we're putting it in an area now that's warm, that's cool, but with light, these are going to start to grow and they'll change to green. And then in about a week from now, these will be ready to plant in the ground. So like I said, reach into the bag, grab your potatoes. So we've got an eye growing here, 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 and then those three at the top. So just kind of give it a rough eyeball. Give it a slice like that. Okay. And we're good to go. So that's essentially all you're doing for this part. So like I said, for something like this size, egg size, you don't need to worry about cutting these up. See? Right? So you see the big difference? Compared to something like this. So we just grab it. Find roughly the same amount of eyes. Now if you have some of these really big potatoes, what you can do is you can definitely cut this into multiple chunks, right? Like I can take this because I've got a couple on the top. Now also when you're doing this, when you're putting it on your cutting board, don't put that part down when you're trying to cut it because you'll snap that off, right? So you can take your knife, give it a slice. That's done. So I've got that here and here. And that's a pretty big chunk, and there's lots of material to act as a battery for this to start to grow out of. So one potato now just gave me 3 different chunks, which is going to grow me 3 different sets of potato plants, which is going to grow me 3 different clusters of potatoes. Okay, so that's that part, right? You want to make sure before these go in the ground, you want to make sure that this is dry. The next thing you need to do is when you're planting your potatoes, you're going to want to fertilize them. And because we're growing tubers, we're not trying to grow the top of the potato plant, right? Obviously it's going to happen, photosynthesis and all that sort of thing. But you don't want a ginormous, huge, bushy top to your potato plant. Because what's going to happen with that is you're going to attract a lot of disease to your plant. So when you're planting these, what you want is you want your potassium and your phosphate fertilizers. So you've got your NPK on your bottle of fertilizer. You want your nitrogen to be half of what your P and your K values are. So let's say a 5, 10, 10, a 3, 6, 6, a 4, 8, 8. And because essentially you're growing the tuber in the ground, the top of the potato out of the ground doesn't really matter as much, right? Because you're not eating that part. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put these in a cool place where there's some light. These are going to grow. They're going to go from green to white. We're going to let this turn leathery, and then they're going to be ready to plant. And then I'm sure all of you have had something like this grow in your basement. Isn't that pretty though? Look at the color of that. So these in here are last year's fingerling potatoes. There we go, get that in frame. So this is a purple fingerling potato. Look how long that is. So I've had these, we pulled these out of the ground last September. And yep, they're squishy, right? They don't look too good, but it doesn't matter because once these get into the ground, these are going to start to grow like gangbusters, right? So I've had these in the basement in the dark. Now I'm going to bring them up and I'm going to give them some light. And see if I can reach my hand down in here without breaking any of these off. Oh, got it. There. See how white that is, right? They've been in my crawl space. So because this one only has one little root growing out of it, I'm not even going to cut this. I mean, they are fingerlings anyway, so they are supposed to be relatively small. So, going to put that in the ground. So that's my little monster potato box here. So I've got, there might even be some baby red potatoes in here. I'm not too sure. I may have to dig down. So that's the plan. That's how you do your potatoes. Don't let them get like this. This is not good. I kind of forgot about these, but we're going to plant them anyways, and these will still grow. But this is going to make planting them a lot more complicated, right? Obviously, with all this. So this is what you want. This is normally how people get their seed potatoes. You get them in a bag, right? And when you're picking your seed potatoes, they're in bins for the most part. When you're picking through them, when I was looking at mine, a lot of them had a lot of damage in the bin. There was rotten spots, there was big slices and gouges. And you don't want that because that potato is going to start to rot before you're able to get them in the ground, right? And there's the other bag. So I'm going to continue going through this bag here. I'm going to cut them all up like that. I'm going to put these seed potatoes back in the bag because I don't think I'm going to really cut any of these up. Maybe some of the larger ones. I doubt it. They're all pretty small. And that's it, guys. So get your potatoes going because it's planting season for potatoes. If you haven't bought your seed potatoes yet, find a local distributor that sells your seed potatoes and you start the process. It's not too late because you've got early potatoes, you've got mid-season variety potatoes, and you've got late season variety potatoes. Last year we grew potatoes. I think they were 100-day long potatoes. So you've got time, but you got to make sure you're starting now. Okay? So there's not a whole lot to it. Remember your fertilizer protocols. Use lots of compost. I mean, everybody who knows me knows I'm a big proponent of compost. Tomorrow I'm going to be going to the garden. And along the way, I'm going to pick up a truck from work, probably a dump truck by the looks of things, and I'm going to be getting myself multiple yards of organic mushroom compost that comes right from a mushroom farm. So you guys will see that tomorrow. I've got 7 beds to shape that are 80 feet long. It's all going to be done by hand, 30-inch wide beds, 12-inch wide pathways. Then I'm going to till thin the compost into the top of that, as well as I've got bags of composted cow manure over by my door beside me, over that way. And I'm going to add some of that in. And then once everything's planted, I'm going to make a huge batch of compost tea. And I'm going to water in the whole garden with loads of compost tea to exponentially increase the biological life that's in the garden. So that's going to help everything grow, everything take off. So that's it for potatoes. It's not too complicated. I'm going to carry on here, get a couple of cardboard boxes, and then I'm going to put these someplace cool and sunny so they will start to turn green and leathery and they're getting ready to plant. All right? So if you guys like the content here, I'm going through my analytics, and a lot of people that watch my videos are not subscribers. If you like the content, I'd really appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, do all those good things, leave a comment, and you guys can follow. I'll be doing grow guides for all kinds of stuff this summertime. We're just starting up here. All right? So have a great night, grow good food, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace!